who's watching, it'd be great if you stay on. I am going to talk a little bit about, you should have received a flyer in the mail, a brochure about the 200 South High Street, which is a building that we're attempting to purchase as a district. The vote is October 7th. So I'm going to share a little PowerPoint, and some of you may have seen it already. If you have, I'm just going to highlight it briefly. And then in Facebook Live, if you're watching live today, you should have the ability to throw some questions in there about the vote and about the purchase of the building. Please do so. I'm going to try to get to them tonight after I go through the PowerPoint. I'll try to do it live if I can, if this works. If not, I'll answer the questions by tomorrow. But we definitely want you to ask questions and voice any comments or anything else that you have related to the purchase of this building. So I'm going to share my screen now, and then hopefully, let's see if this works. There we go. You should be able to see it. So it's a very brief PowerPoint. I'm going to go through it rather quickly and make sure that I try to hit all the important points around it. So let's do this. So why are we purchasing this building? 200 South High Street, which is right at the south entrance. You should see it when you come into our district. It's actually was owned by the YMCA. They bought it approximately 17 years ago. I think the building was built in 1956 or 1957. So it's roughly 65 years old, the building itself. The Y purchased it about 15 to 17 years ago, and now it's up for sale. We put in an offer in October, we put in an offer in the summer, and the Y accepted that offer. And now legally we have to bring it to a vote by the Victor Central School District, simple majority vote. We're going to have that vote on October 7th. The price of the building is $425,000. And we believe it will add some important space to our campus, which is getting very tight on space. Also improves our security of our campus. And it's a natural extension of the campus, which really closes it off. So we're really excited about this potential purchase, and the purchase itself will have no impact on future taxes. So that's an important point. So let me just talk a little more about these important points. Like I said, the board has authorized this purchase. They have really been the leader in this. And in July, we did a tour of it. It was actually the second tour that we did of the building. And then at that point, the board approved us to make an offer to the Y. Mr. Valise is our assistant superintendent for business. He made that offer with a brokerage company called Pyramid. And ultimately, the YMCA accepted the offer in the summer. On August 18th, the Board of Education approved the proposition that ultimately is voted on October 7th. The vote will be from 12 noon until 8 p.m. at the Victor Primary School Gymnasium. The reason why that's an important date or a good date to do the vote is it's also a conference day, which means students will not be in session on Friday, October 7th, which makes it a safer vote and then leads to less traffic congestion. Again, we're pretty much at capacity in all 5 of our buildings. We have over 4,300 students total, including pre-K. Every one of our buildings is running out of classroom space. That does not mean that we have too many kids in each class. That's not what I'm talking about being at capacity. What I'm talking about is the overall space within the buildings is extremely tight. And because almost all the campus is developed and or has athletic fields or other buildings on it, it's very little of it is suitable to build on. So when we have the opportunity to get a space that's already there, we believe it's a real prudent opportunity to have. So this particular purchase of 200 South High Street will not fix all of our space issues. There's a probability, a strong probability, but not a certainty, that we will have increasing enrollment over the next few years because housing continues to develop, especially in the town of Farmington in the Victor Central School District. Does that guarantee that we're going to have increased enrollment? No. Our enrollment's actually been relatively flat over the last 5 to 7 years. But when they're building 40 to 50 homes each year over the last few years, it can lead certainly to the idea that we may end up having increased enrollment. One of the things we're going to do in the next few months is do a deep study in our enrollment and our census and our live birth data, as well as talking to the realtors who are, working with families moving into these new homes to get a much better sense of where we believe the enrollment's going to be over the next 3 to 5 years. We don't want to build classrooms and then not use them. That would be ridiculous. We also don't want to not build classrooms if we need and have a couple hundred more kids come in over the next few years, because that would mean that we would be in a real difficult situation around space. So we want to get better understanding of the needs in terms of enrollment. What the Y building would do as we do this bigger, and we have the bigger challenge of dealing with our space issues over the next few years and potential enrollment increases, though, the Y allows us to do something that we can't do right now because of the space. And that's that first piece on there where we have unaddressed needs, especially around kids who may have short-term, who may not be in school for short amounts of time. And when I say short amounts of time, that could be days, could be weeks, could be even months. It could be because of behavior challenges, could also be for medical reasons or other reasons. And right now, we're only able to offer those students barely 2 hours of tutoring if BOCES is able to supply those tutors. And it's not conducive to keeping kids engaged in school. So what we're really excited about a potential use of the Y building would be to bring kids back who have these short-term absences from school, either for behavioral reasons or medical reasons, and bring them back almost a full day, if not a full day, but in a different location, which is right on campus, which is 200 South High Street. And then that could be utilized not just for academic teaching and support, but also social, emotional, and mental health feedback and support, which would be awesome. And so that's something that we're really excited about. The Y would give us the space to create our own tutoring center for that purpose. Other districts have gone to this method and found great success. And so we are excited about that. The other thing that is prevalent on our mind around this building is we are hopeful that we're able to use it for professional development space for our faculty and our staff. And that space then could be taken out of our buildings, which would free up our buildings for student use, which again would make a small dent in our issues around space in the overall campus. So, and then a third thing, which we talk a little bit about, is the potential use for that building for sort of an infrastructure for security and to some degree technology. But the main focus would be a tutoring center along with some potential professional development space. It's about 5,000 square feet. So we have obviously a finite amount of space to use, but it's really specific and would help us enhance our programming right now. Again, bigger picture, we still have things to discuss and look at our capital projects in terms of what we want to focus on. These are just pictures of our kids. This is at the secondary level. This happens to be passing time, but again, space is a premium. So in addition to having the Y used for these purposes, it would, like I said before, also close the campus off, which from outside agencies using that space, that would support increased security and safety of our entire campus by closing it off. It also is much cheaper to renovate a space as opposed to build a completely new one. With us being a municipality and having to go with bidders out to secure materials and supplies, especially in this time, it would be incredibly expensive, probably over $4 million to build a space of this size, as opposed to what we think would be between $2 to $2.5 million total price to purchase it and then renovate it in the future. So those are other reasons why it's important to buy it. How are we going to do it? Well, because of a couple things, because of our much improved financial situation, we're now able to put significantly more money in our capital reserve. So we have almost $10 million saved in our initial capital reserve. We would take $425,000 out of that capital reserve to pay for the building. if the vote was a positive vote, which means it would have no impact on future taxes because we would not in any way borrow any money to pay for it. We would have the money to do it. Then in a separate capital project, as you know, most, if not all districts try to do capital projects every 2 to 5 years to not only maintain and keep up with, needed repairs and renovations, but also to make sure that they're staying afloat with size and space, as well as 21st century classroom technology. So capital projects are typically every 2 to 5 years. In our next capital project is when we would bring to vote the renovations for this particular building, like I said earlier, which would be somewhere between 1.5 and $2 million. It would also come out of the capital reserve, which means we would not have to borrow money to renovate this building or purchase the building. And that's a huge thing, because in the past, when Victor was growing significantly and the state aid was frozen in the district, so we didn't have the revenue necessary to support that growth, the district still needed to build facilities and repair facilities. So they had to borrow money, as they had to borrow some money to try to do that, which then obviously has interest rates added onto it. This does not require any borrowing, both the purchase or the renovation. We also have a second capital reserve that the public passed last May, which is great because we can put money in there as well to support the next capital project. We believe the next capital project will be finalized in terms of what it would entail by March or April of this school year. And then a potential vote for the next capital project would occur in the summer of 2023, probably July. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done, a lot of input from the community and the staff regarding our next capital project. But one of the things that will be part of it would be the renovation of this Y building, if the building vote passes in October to purchase it. These are some pictures of the Y building. It doesn't look the greatest at this moment, which is why we need to renovate it. So the total timeline would be, and this is what we think, if the vote passes on October 7th, then there's a chance we could use part of the building for staff right away, as soon as possible. We are investigating whether that's something that can occur or not. But we would not be able to utilize it for students until it's renovated, because there's obviously state laws and regulations around the structure and build of classrooms and space that are used for students. So that, as I said, that would be part of the next capital project. So we wouldn't be able to most likely we wouldn't be able to use this space for the tutoring center until halfway through next school year, because the capital project won't be voted on until the summer. And then, of course, that if it's passed, we'd have to do the work. So the student piece is still about 1.5 years away. But we hope that we're able to use this space to some degree for staff use during that 1.5 years. And of course, once the renovation is completed, then we have this building for years to come. So that's the general timeline of the project. In terms of presentations and give and take, you've already see from this that we've had a few. Today's the 20th and it's the town hall. Next Tuesday is a big day. We'll be presenting to our staff at 3:45. And then we're going to do 2 presentations to the public. One will be the town of Farmington at 6:30 p.m. I already spoke to the town of Victor earlier this month, as well as the Kiwanis and the PTSA. And then at 7:30, we are holding our public hearing in the junior high, senior high auditorium. That's going to be in person and live streamed at the same time. So people can either watch from their homes or come and ask questions there. And then October 5th, we're going to finish our presentations to the Victor Farmington Rotary. Now, just for your information, again, you should have received a flyer or should be receiving a flyer in the mail either this week or this coming week, whether you received it or not. It should be in by the end of this week. That'll explain all the information I just talked about. I'd encourage you to go to our website where we have a lot of information to cover that covers the vote and why we're doing it and how we're paying for it. In addition to that, on that website will be a video that we're putting up in the next couple days that also defines the project and the why around it. So lots of information. That's at victorschools.org. And I would encourage you to go there. Just go right to the part about the project. It's easy to find. And again, a lot of your questions can be answered from that. The vote is Friday, October 7th, 2022, from noon to 8 p.m. at the primary school gymnasium. And again, after that vote, obviously it'll be counted. And if there's a majority of yes votes, the vote passes. If there's a majority of no votes, then the vote doesn't pass. So that's the quick presentation. I'm going to stop the video and now I'm going to take a look and I'm going to see if this works. I'm going to take a look to see if we have any questions. And I think we have 3 of them so far. And I'm going to try to answer those. Hopefully I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to talk verbally about the questions. And then I also have another venue where some people are asking questions. So I'll keep that on. So the first question, where does the money in the capital reserve come from? Tax money? I can't remember a single proposition for building additions, updates on new buildings that did not increase taxes. Please explain. Now I'm going to explain that as best I can. So when we create a budget, we try to create it similar to the way homeowners do, which is try to figure out exactly what we should be spending money on, which most important. Don't spend more money than you have. And when you can, put money away for either emergencies or savings. That's the same way we budget our district. And so what that means is, and where this shifted the last couple of years is, we've tried to maintain what we'd call 3.5% to 4.5% contingency money in every budget, which means that we budget to somewhere between 96 and 97% of our expenses, but hope to have 3 to 4% of money left over at the end, either through unused expenses or increased revenues than we expected. And that money is either used for emergencies that come up beyond the general fund, or if the emergencies don't occur or whatever money's left over, we can put that money in our savings, just like a homeowner would. Only in this case, the savings are reserves. So that money then goes into reserves, and we're able then to use those reserves for long-term planning, especially the capital reserve. So it also says in this question, I can't remember a single proposition for building additions, updates, or new buildings that did not increase taxes. Please explain. So we're definitely not increasing taxes, future taxes, because of the purchase of the building or because of the renovation of the building. The theory and philosophy around budgeting that includes that 3.5% to 4.5% contingency, that's built into at least we really tried to build that into starting in the 2021 budget, because in the past, Victor was not able, in most cases, to have any money left over for emergencies, which caused the district to really run a deficit, which is why, and again, that was because of the growing population and the frozen state aid, as well as the tax cap. So in every budget, we have tried to be as prudent as possible with increased taxes. We've had increased tax levies, but the last 2 years, the rates actually have gone down between the year before and the current year, and that occurred this year as well. So could I say that because we're going to populate the old Y building and have a tutoring center and potentially a professional development center, that's going to cost electricity, that's going to cost people in terms of staffing. So I could see how someone could say, well, that will increase our taxes. I hope that doesn't increase taxes and it's embedded in the regular general budget moving forward as we look at our total budget, because that would be part of the budget. But certainly one could say that because we're going to increase some staffing and have electricity needs and heating needs, those types of things, that could potentially affect taxes. My point is the purchase of the building itself, as well as the renovations, will not impact future taxes. And the way we afford that is by, as best we can, having some surplus money at the end of each budget season to either put in reserves or use for emergency funds. Also, if we are pulling money from the capital reserve, how will we replenish the capital reserve? Wouldn't that come from our taxes? Again, I think I tried to answer that question by saying that we strategically budget that 3.5 to 4.5% contingency every year, which is then what is used to refurbish the capital reserve if emergencies don't occur and we have some money left over. If we have such a surplus and financial stability, why can't we refocus on lowering lunch and breakfast costs for students, since qualifying for discounted free lunches is extremely difficult, even with just one income, and paying for lunches at the current cost is astronomical? That's a great point. That's something that we have thought of. As you know, I think for the last 2 years, lunches and breakfasts have been free for everybody. Based upon the pandemic, that shifted. And so now we are back to the free and reduced lunch concept, where some families who qualify with certain incomes can either get reduced or free lunches. And if you don't qualify, you have to pay for those lunches. I think that is something that we need to look at, though, carefully, around the cost of breakfast and lunch and how we deal with it. We did raise lunch and breakfast prices this year. We had to do that because we were running a deficit to some degree in the food service fund, which is typical, especially after the pandemic. We tried to raise those prices at a less level than districts around us. So we're trying to maintain and manage those lunch and breakfast prices. But you make a good point around that, and that is something we can definitely look at and see what we can do around that, because we want to support families. There's absolutely no excuse for families and kids not eating. And I would encourage individual families who may be struggling both around the financial situation, but also around qualification procedures for free and reduced lunch, to please call either our food service department or their school counselor to talk about that. Is the VCS enrollment data available? Yes. It's on the school report card. I'll actually put the link in the Facebook Live so you can go right to it. Now, it's not, this year's is not available because what we call the date that we ultimately use, the state ultimately uses to count enrollment data, isn't until October. So, but once October hits, then that data will be available for 22-23. And I can get the actual numbers at any point. So I'll try to put that in the Facebook Live answer section as well. But if you go to the New York State report card, which I'll also put the address in there, you can find the previous enrollment data for the district. And like I said, I think, and I'm being very approximate at this moment, we've been flat in our enrollment the last 5 to 7 years. We had a significant increase all the way up to somewhere between 2015, 2016. And then it has flattened out. But like I said earlier, the concern or question is based upon the steady increase in housing, especially in the Farmington area of our school district. We have to be prepared for potential increased enrollment, but we've got to do a more in-depth look at who's moving into those homes. Obviously, some of the homes are 1 and 2 bedroom, but many of the homes are 3 and 4 bedroom as well. And we just have to do a more in-depth study on that, because we want to make sure we have data available to talk to, be transparent around in terms of enrollment. Even if the enrollment stays flat over the next few years, we still have a space issue, and we still need to really look at what we're doing in terms of those space issues, whether it's bringing more or changing and redeveloping and increasing our special education classrooms so that we can support a wide variety of students with disabilities, both who are currently out of district as well as kids that are in district. That would require increased space needs, as well as other things such as, like I just mentioned, what we want to use the Y building for, the former Y building, which is a tutoring center. The VIS was supposed to have a new 811 suite at the beginning of the year, but hasn't happened. Will that happen anytime soon? Yes, I believe so, but I can double check that. Again, one of the challenges around this is we don't have the space to just add multiple classrooms. So we have refurbished, we're shifting around some space areas in the intermediate building. That hasn't been completed yet. But I will get an answer on when the 811 suite will be able to happen in the intermediate building. I'll put that answer in Facebook Live as well. Let me just see if there's any other questions on here. I don't think so. what I would ask is, I'm just looking at my other source of questions. Back to that intermediate suite, there's been a delay in state approval. So we're expecting a March, April opening of that suite. All right, so that answers that question. As I said earlier, if you go to our website, we have a whole designated spot for information around this vote. I would encourage you to email me at terranovat@victorschools.org if you have questions. You can also put your questions right in this, like I said, right in the Facebook Live section. It's active for a while, so you can add questions to that, and we will answer them as promptly as possible to do so. And at that point, I'll try to answer them as best we can and make sure that we get as transparent information as possible to the public. Again, the vote is October 7th, 2022 from noon to 8 p.m. And that'll be at the primary gymnasium. Really appreciate the incredible start to the school year. Before I go, if you're still on, if a few of you are still on, just a reminder that here's the good news. Activity runs for secondary students have started. Those are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It's not every day it's not all 3 days for the junior high and the senior high. It's divided up. So go to your junior high or senior high school website or talk to individuals from those schools around the specific activity runs. But we have bus runs for our secondary students, which supports all students to get some extra help after school. And just a nice big shout out, this Friday on the 23rd of September is the annual Teddy Bowl. Actually, we haven't been able to have it over the last couple of years. We're going to actually have 3 different sporting events occurring on Friday, September 23rd. At 6 p.m., we have boys volleyball right in the senior high gymnasium. At 6:30 p.m., we have boys soccer, varsity soccer at the soccer field. And then at 7 p.m., we have football and cheer. And all of those will be occurring on the 23rd. There's a $5 admission, which goes to benefit an incredible organization, Camp Good Days and Special Times, which started off supporting children with cancer to have camping experiences and summer experiences, just like every other child was able to do. And it was an incredible thing founded by Gary Mervis. He's over many, many years expanded the offerings of Camp Good Days and Special Times, which is significant and supports all sorts of families, whether they're affected by cancer or other diseases or other situations. Gary's done a great job with that and has just been a pillar in the community around these types of things. So we are thrilled that we're able to have really extensive athletic events in soccer, volleyball, boys volleyball, and football and cheer, all on Friday, September 23rd, this Friday. Again, it's a $5 admission. Go right to the Victor Blue Devils website or our Twitter account to find out more information around tickets. I know they're going fast, but it's a great benefit, and I encourage everyone to come out on Friday night. We're going to have these town halls every month. So our next is in October. We'll have more details around who we're going to have as special guests and information we're going to cover on that town hall. Again, if you have any questions, email me, terranovat@victorschools.org, or put them in the chat part of the Facebook, and we'll try to answer them as best we can over the next day or two. Have a wonderful evening and take care.